Christy Tubbs. I am the proud wife of your future congressman. I'm very excited about tonight. What you just witnessed right now was something very historical in our own eyes. Our very own Veteran of the Year posted our colors for us this evening. Would you like to? Our Veteran of the Year is, oh my gosh, I just went blank. Paul Jones, Mr. Paul Jones, right here. I'm very honored to be able to do this town hall in a Veterans Hall. It is something that is near and dear to my husband's heart and my heart. We are a military family of over 23, almost 23 years now. So thank you, gentlemen, for your service to our country and for your service to us this evening. I appreciate it. And congratulations, Paul. This evening, we have a couple of special people in the house. First of all, we have the Young Americans for Liberty back in the back corner right there. Thank you, gentlemen. One of the reasons why Rick is running is to protect America for our future. And our future leaders are right here helping us. And so we would appreciate it if you ran by their table, check them out, listen to some of them. They've got some great ideas. Support, if you can support them, that would be wonderful. And then somebody else that is a wonderful future leader is our, you just heard from him a second ago, leading our Pledge of Allegiance, Mr. Miles Missler. Miles is in the back. Can you stand up and say hi? Miles is attempting to achieve his Eagle Scout, which is the highest honor that you can achieve as a, I almost said Cub Scout, sorry, sweetie. As a young man, Boy Scout, Boy Scouts of America. Rick has been supporting him, and he would like for all of you to stop by the table, see if there's any way that you can support him with your time, your energy, give him some words of encouragement. It's a blessing for us to see young men and women step up to lead this nation, and those are good examples of who will be part of our future leadership, taking care of us when we're all old, so be nice to them now. Anyway, I think so. Anyway, congratulations, Miles, and we would like you to all visit his table at the end of the afternoon as well. Now, without further ado, can I introduce you? All right. I would like to introduce you to the man of the hour, my dear sweet husband. I'm going to cry today. Yeah, I know who you are. Please say Rick. Dear God, say Rick. Yeah, it's been a day. Anyway, I would just very quickly tell you we've been married almost 23 years, and there is, when he came to us and asked us as a family, we had a family meeting and asked if it was okay. He said he felt very strongly that he needed to run for Congress again, and he said, we can do this time, but I can't do it without you. And I looked at him and I said, I love you desperately. Now go win! Ladies and gentlemen, here's my husband, Rick Tubbs, your future leader.
Well, thank you very much. That is the best wife in the world. I tell you what. I know some of you men will disagree, but that's okay. I'll disagree with you. It was very important for those introductions that Christy made is the young ones, right? The younger generation. And the main reason I'm running is for that younger generation. I mean, I've been a dad now for 18 years, thank you, my oldest daughter, Holly, right there. And when I went into this to begin with, I thought, you know, their future is in jeopardy. I live the American dream. And I want to make sure they can have that same American dream. So the first reason why I am running to be your congressman is because I'm a dad. And I want to make sure that my kids and yours, and your grandkids, have that American dream that you and I enjoyed through our life. So that's just a start. Thank you for coming. My name is Rick Tubbs, and I'm running to be your congressman in this new district, CD3. And we're going to talk about it a little bit today. I want to talk about the campaign. Why we're so hopeful that we're going to win this. I want to talk about the issues that are important to me and how we're going to save the American dream. And then I'll tell you a little bit about myself, let you know my background experience, and all that's going to take maybe 15 minutes, and then I'm going to open it up to you for questions. Please ask me anything you'd like, and I will answer you, I don't know, if I don't know. And that's good military training. So let's just start out here. We're running here for Congress in 2012. And as a leader, yeah, I've been in the United States Air Force as an officer for those same 22 plus years. My wife and I were married the same weekend I was commissioned. And throughout that time, I believe it's very important for a leader, for the folks that they're trying to lead, is to give them vision and purpose. The vision is what you're trying to accomplish, where you're trying to go. And the purpose is the reason that you sacrifice to get there. So I'm going to give you my vision and my purpose to start out. And the vision is simply to win this election. To beat whoever my opponent is in the November election. We assume it will be John Garamendi, the Democrat. But that is the vision, to win. And to build this campaign. This is a grassroots campaign. To build that campaign so we can win with the people. And tonight, I am asking you to give me a chance. You may walk out of here saying, nope, that's not the guy for me. I'm going to pick the other guy. And that's fine. God bless you. Go ahead. Take some cookies on the way out. Okay? That's fine. All I ask tonight is that you give me a chance to win your vote, to win your support. And if after what you hear tonight, you're on board, then let's get on board and do this together. Okay? Now the purpose of what we're doing. The purpose. These are the issues. The first purpose that I am running. The reason you're going to vote for Rick Tubbs is because I'm going to go to Washington and balance this budget. Over $1 trillion of deficit every year with no end in sight. There is nothing. There is no plan. Democrats, Republicans alike. Now, most of you know I am a Republican and a proud Republican. Nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with Democrats either. What the problem is both parties have been in Washington far too long not balancing this budget. I'm throwing them all under the bus. Okay? So balancing the budget is the #1 reason why you're going to send me to Congress. And that is where I see the American dream threatened. As we continue to borrow this $1 trillion every year, no end in sight. Do you know that we're at about $400 billion a year, give or take the interest rate of interest? That's a lot of money. Those tax dollars that are coming out of your paychecks. When you go to work, you work hard, or if you've retired and you've earned that money, and that money's coming in, your tax dollars that you've earned with your blood and sweat come out of your check. And a significant amount of that money, when you have a $3.6 trillion budget, $400 billion, about 9% at this point, that money that you're working for is paying interest on all the money we borrow. And the money we borrowed is simply a failure of management of our resources. And now, with foreign debt at nearly half of our total debt, the money you're working for is going to other countries like China, Russia, the Mideast, Japan, to build their roads, to build their schools, to pay for their militaries, to pay for their health care. The money you're earning is going overseas through this borrowing. You can see that debt from our government is a bad thing, a very bad thing. And the bigger it is, the badder it is. That's probably, my wife's going to yell at me for that English there. I'm trying to make the point. It is not good, and it is a mismanagement out of the folks that are out there in Washington right now that is resulting in that large debt. So how do we fix it? It's one thing to bellyache, right? It's one thing to say what's wrong. Anybody can do that. And you sound, oh yeah, I agree with that guy. Well, we need solutions. We need solutions to these problems. Not just somebody who understands the problems, but somebody who understands how to fix them. Now that's getting into my background a little bit. In the military, I've balanced several multi-million-dollar budgets for our armed forces, for the Air Force, and it's a federal budget, the same rules. I'm wearing the uniform, but it's the same type of bureaucracy you have to deal with. Different pots of money, different colors of money, we call it. All the different rules, this year's money, last year's money. It's a tangled mess. And you've got to know what you're doing to start. And so I've balanced many. Right now, as a commander for a reserve unit at Travis, I am balancing every year a nearly $20 million budget. Simple. You prioritize your spending. Now, I got to believe there's a lot of people in this room that balance their family budget. And tell me if this sounds familiar. You prioritize your spending. Your mortgage, your food, insurance, gas for the car. Maybe you've got some other bills that are important to you. You prioritize those bills You stretch every dollar as far as it'll go. You know, the next cell phone program that comes along that's $20 cheaper a month and gives you more service, you sign up and save that 20 bucks, right? You know, Netflix said, we're going to charge you $15 a month for the same service you got now. Well, Tubbs family said, we don't need that online thing. We dropped that and went to $8 a month. You stretch every dollar as far as it'll go, and then you draw a line, and you say no to everything below it that you can't afford. Why they can't do that in Washington is beyond me. But when you think about voting for Rick Tubbs, you are voting for me to go to Washington to fight and balance that budget. Now, again, back to solutions. How do we do it? Some will say we need to raise taxes. Grow revenue by raising taxes. I think that is the exact opposite of what you do. And when I ran against George Miller in 2010, I had a debate with him where he was on one side of the aisle saying we need to raise taxes on the rich. Those terrible rich people need to pay their fair share. Okay? And I was on the other side saying, okay, Congressman Miller, and let me kind of bring this into Congressman Garamendi a little bit too, because I don't want to be fighting the last battle. That's what our military does now and again. I'm not fighting the last battle, I'm just using it as a reference. Congressman Garamendi can speak for himself, but that is the Democrat side of raising taxes, starting with President Obama and many of the Democrats. So I do not believe that raising taxes on those that are in the position to expand their business, to grow jobs, is the right way to go. And we can talk numbers later. I don't want to bore you to death because I've got enough numbers for you today. But I'm telling you right now, raising taxes will only hurt the economy, will only suppress job growth, and that is not the way to do it. The way to raise revenue, which we need to do, is by growing jobs, by getting more taxpayers into the economy and less tax takers. That's how we raise revenue. That's how we take our $2.5 trillion of revenue every year, and that number goes up and down depending upon the latest estimate. But you grow $2.5 trillion at 4% growth rate a year, which is relatively average, a little bit higher, but with some of the things we're going to do, it's going to grow very fast. And in 5 years, that $2.5 trillion grows to 3. Remember that number, 3. $3 trillion. We grow jobs by getting government off the backs of the job creators. Right now, the regulation is killing jobs. How many small business owners in the audience? How many of you? And regulations getting in the way of what you're trying to do to grow your business at all? Yeah, strangling. Before President Obama, we were putting out about 149 regulations a year that cost $100 billion to the economy. Since President Obama has come in, it's up to 249. Dear God, that's way too much. That's jobs out of the economy. And are we getting something for those regulations? Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Again, in a debate I had with John Garamendi, he tried to wave his hand and paint the Republicans with a broad brush of saying, oh, they're against no regulations. I'm not against no regulations. We have to have clean air. We have to have clean water. We need to have a safe working environment. Those kind of things, of course. It's not about getting rid of all regulations. It's about getting rid of the ones that aren't effective, that are costing a lot of money and costing jobs. And let's work with business, job creators, and see how to do it better. Doing it, achieving these safe work environments and the things that we want for our society. Let's see how to do it together in a way that doesn't cost business too much. And let me give you an example. Talking to an ExxonMobil engineer. He's telling me how the EPA, rightfully so, limits the amount of heavy metals that they can have in their wastewater that flows to open sources. Absolutely agree with that. The problem is the EPA goes in and tells Exxon exactly how to remove the metals in the most inefficient and expensive way, and the engineer says, just give me the limit, I'll figure out how to do it, just test it at the end, and I'll do it a whole lot more cheaply and a whole lot more effectively, and I'll probably do it better, or he said he would do it better. That's working with job creators to get the desired result of the regulation in a job-friendly way. American Disabilities Act. You want solutions? I'm going to give you solutions tonight. American Disabilities Act. A great regulation allowing our disabled Americans better access to normal life in society. I agree with that act. What I disagree with is the fella that walks into a restaurant finds that the mirror is 2 inches too high for the ADA gets a lawyer and goes sues that business and then gets a settlement out of it because of a personal injury lawsuit. I have talked to business owners that has happened to. That is not the intent of the American Disabilities Act, and it is costing jobs everywhere you go. You take out of the ADA that personal injury lawsuit ability, and you make it a fine or some sort of punishment from the government, and you make it between the government and the business, not the individual on a personal injury lawsuit and a business. Talked to a fellow in Martinez last time around who was planning on opening up another restaurant. 30 more employees, and he got sued for an ADA violation, and that was one of the major reasons why he didn't open up. 30 jobs cost, because we don't know how to make these regulations job friendly. We still get the same result without costing the jobs. Okay, regulations. Next, taxes. I said don't raise taxes on individuals. I would like to see the corporate tax rate come down from 35%, which is now the highest in the world. Japan lowered theirs. They were the first. Highest in the world, bring it down to 20, 15%. Give them a stable tax environment so they know how much they're going to have to pay. They being the job creators. And now they can go out and manage their risk, grow their jobs, or grow their business to grow jobs. We've got to bring some taxes down on them and allow them to have some capital to get this economy going. Next, lawsuits, litigation, frivolous lawsuits. We talked about it a little bit in the ADA. But you institute a fair, and that's a longer conversation, but a fair loser pays law to where if somebody tries to sue you and it's frivolous and they fail, they pay your legal fees. Okay? And so now you don't have lawyers out there saying, hey, come on, let's try, and I won't charge you if we lose, but if we do win, I'm going to take 80% of what we get settled. Okay? Those kind of things will get rid of those frivolous lawsuits and make an environment much more competitive for our businesses. That's how we grow jobs. Many more solutions out there. I'm going to move on. Cutting spending. The other side of the balancing budget equation. Remember I said it was $3.6 trillion? Cut, real cut, 3.5% per year, which is not difficult if you have the will to do it. Not difficult at all. 3.5% per year. And in 5 years, you get to $3 trillion. Remember that number from before? We now, in 5 years, have a balanced budget. The time it takes many college students to get their degree, 5 years we have a balanced budget. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we hold that budget for 1 year, so now we get a surplus, and it'll take us with a reasonable sacrifice on all of our parts. All of our parts. Because when you talk about, you've heard of the Paul Ryan budget, right? That's a good one. But you're going to hear of a Rick Tubbs budget that has sacrificed all across the American citizens. So we wear it as a badge of honor. What did you give up to save the American dream? What did you give up to make sure the next generation has a shot? We will be the next great generation. Any World War II vets? One. There's a member of the last great generation. They gave up so much so we could live the life we've had. Well, it's our turn now, ladies and gentlemen. It is our turn now to step up and do what we need to do to make sure this generation, that generation, has the shot we have. So the Rick Tubbs budget will have sacrifice across the board for everybody. We'll wear it as a badge of honor. It'll be a national movement. What did you give up? The cuts that need to be made in that budget to go from 3.6 down to 3. That's how to do it, because if you just make intermittent cuts every once in a while, now it's, oh, that group, they're being victimized by the government, that group's being victimized, and they get people trying to help them out. Everybody's going to need to get it. Now here's a couple of good ideas for how to cut spending. Right now there's an estimated $100 billion of fraud, just flat out fraud in Medicare. We need to actually spend a little bit more money into the fraud department, use some of the common good practices out there that our credit cards already use to keep your fraud on your credit card down around 1 to 1.5%. And I'm getting this idea from Newt Gingrich, I gotta be fair. He came up with this, and I think it's a great idea. We go out there and we go after this fraud. $100 billion is about 25% of the Medicare budget. You cut Medicare by 25%, oh, but you don't cut one payment to a doctor, you don't cut any services to our seniors, You cut the fraud and waste and excess out of it and keep all the services in place. Now that's smart government. That's responsible government. That's what they should be doing out there. And why they're not, I don't know. But they're not. And as your congressman, I'll be fighting for that and making sure it happens. All right, another place. $98 billion estimated. Heritage Foundation, that's where I got that number, of overpayments. And I'm sorry, I'm going to go a little long now because I get so passionate about this stuff. But $98 million, you walk into a grocery store, you buy your $3 gallon of milk, and they charge you $8. You give them 10, they give you $2 back, you go, you start walking up. Wait, I gave you a 10, not a 5. And they go, oh, you're right, here's your $8 or $7. The government just keeps walking. And that $5 of tax money that you earned and gave to the government gets wasted in poor accounting and bill paying. And it's a lot of money. Again, just do some work. Just have your congresspeople do the work they should be doing, holding these agencies accountable for doing their job. No accountability up the chain. As a military guy, I'm accountable to a boss every day. I've got 90 people accountable to me every day. And I've had a few in my office saying, you're not doing your job. Get it going. Or you're out, right? Well, our congressmen and women aren't doing their job. You're the boss. You're the board of directors. You're the ones that get to say, not doing your job, you're out. Put somebody else in. That's what I'm asking for tonight. Okay, we can go through a lot of spending cuts. You want to hear another good one that'll rally you a little bit? Spotted owl. Remember the spotted owl, some of you?
Yeah.
I'm not going to debate that issue. What I am going to say is the government put a program in place to help Northern California, Oregon, and Washington with their lumber industry that was hurt by protecting the spotted owl. Okay, maybe the right thing to do back then. Again, I'm not going to debate that. What I'm going to tell you is almost 20 years later, that small government program of a few $1 million has grown into tens of millions of dollars with 43 states with sharp, smart congresspeople who know how to tap into those government systems and bring the dollars home to their constituents. 43 states are receiving spotted owl money now. That's waste. That's terrible. Cut that out of your government. But you need congressmen and women that are going to go in there and say enough. And write it into law, write it into the budget, and vote for it. Okay, next. Next big issue. If you like Obamacare, if you like the last 2 years, your insurance rates going up in direct response to Obamacare. If you like the CBO's estimated 800,000 jobs that it's going to cost our country. If you like the extra 10,000 IRS workers that are going to be hired in support of a Medicare or a medical bill, I don't even understand that. If you like all that stuff, and if you like your government taking over your medical system, then don't vote for me. I'm telling you right now, if you like Obamacare, do not vote for me. If you don't like Obamacare, and you want to see some reform, you want to see, I like the provision that keeps my student children on my medical coverage till 26. I like it, but it's going to cost me money. I like the provision that doesn't allow insurance companies to drop you if you lose or if you get sick. I like that, but it's going to cost money. I'm not going to lie to you. It's not going to be cheaper. Our president promised that Medicare coverage would be cheaper if we passed his bill. It's not going to be cheaper. You don't offer more for less unless you're military. You've been doing it for 20 plus years. But anyway, it's such a different story. There's certain things I want to keep, but we have to repeal Obamacare. I lived in Texas for 5 years with the Air Force, and I remember Senator Phil Gramm when Hillary Clinton was pushing that Medicare back then, and he stood on the Senate floor and said, "Not over my dead body." It was a defining moment for that debate back then. Well, I'm telling you tonight, Obamacare will not stand. Over my dead body will it continue. If you don't like Obamacare, then I got a chance to win your vote. And then third, California has sat on its hands for over 30 years with this water crisis. Supply. We have stopped building any dams. We have stopped growing our supply. We've had some really smart water engineers out there doing all they can to try to shuffle things around to help make the supply grow for our growing population. But we are at the level now that supply is strict. You saw a couple years ago how the Central Valley turned into a dust bowl, and my wife brought back a sign that said, she took a picture of it, and the sign said, Congressional Created Dust Bowl. And it was a big orchard just dead and brown because they cut the water off to the Central Valley. We need enough water in California for drinking. And just to let you Northern California folks know, which I am one of you, there are more voters in the South than they are in the North. When it comes to the point where they need drinking water over our Delta, over our farming industry, which has already been cut off, I think they'll get their water. So we need drinking water, we need water for the Delta. I do believe that is an environment that needs to be protected. If that salt water is allowed to come up the marsh, that's going to be not good. And we need to keep that enough water flowing to keep the salt water back. And we need enough water for our agriculture industry. We can do it all. We've got to increase storage, do some recycling, and even desalination for the bigger cities like San Diego, San Francisco, and LA. That's how we do it. And solutions, okay, that's great, that's a big idea. Solutions, build the Auburn Dam. Build it. I know there's some issues there, but we're smart. We can do it. Build that Auburn Dam. Let's increase that storage right there. That's a place to start. Okay. Hopefully I've shown you solutions, right? Not just problems, solutions. And that's what I'm asking you to look at tonight and see if you want me to be your congressman. All right, quickly, let's go through here. Here's the new district. Here's why I think we have a chance. I ran last time in a district against a 36-year incumbent in a 3-to-1 Democrat to Republican district. Very difficult. We did very well, but not well enough. This district, it includes, if you see down here, we're right here in Dixon, a little bit of Sacramento, Fairfield, Jackson. Then it goes up to Yolo, and then up there, it's all the farming communities of Calusa, Glen, Sutter, Yuba, and then over to Lake. This district is a toss-up, ladies and gentlemen. It is a toss-up. It is still leaning Democrat, which is important. 42% Democrat to 33% Republican, 20 decline to state. Still leans Democrat, but in 2010, this district actually voted for Carly Fiorina, 46%, beaten Barbara Boxer by 1%, 45. Toss-up. Meg Whitman lost. She lost to Jerry Brown in this district. Republican, hey Rocky, Republican California Assembly members beat their Democrat Assembly members 47-41, 6 points. You see Republicans have a chance in this district. Now if you go down to the congressional side, which I was one of those Republican candidates, we lost by 1.5 points. So if nothing changes between 2010 and 2012, and I'm the candidate, Garamendi's the candidate, I will lose by about 3,000 votes. If nothing changes. Let's change it. Okay, why we are going to win those 3,000 votes and more. Our last campaign, I call it, we started with 5 snowflakes. My wife and my 3 kids. We had this itty bitty snowball at the top of the hill, and it started rolling down, and it rolled faster and built up, and it got going. By the end of that campaign, we had over 800 volunteers that said, I want to help. We had over 1,000 donors, averaging about $100 a piece. And even though I had cities like Vallejo, I gained 9 points in Vallejo, still lost 74-26. I didn't even look in Richmond because it was so rough. Even though I had those cities, that's why we lost. You come east to where we are now in Vacaville, my hometown, a city that went for George Miller year after year after year. In 2008, he won that city 54-40%. In 2010, when I ran against him, same city, 95,000 people, same voters, I beat George Miller 57-43%, a swing of 9,000 votes in a town of 95,000. We do that in Fairfield alone. Dixon. We could probably do it in Dixon alone, although Dixon did do it. Cliff did endorse me, by the way. We do that in Fairfield alone. We beat John Garamendi with those 3,000 votes and plenty more. And that's, some of you are telling me how Congressman Garamendi is already campaigning very hard. That's why. That's why. Because we do have a chance here. But we won't win if we don't do the work. Okay? Next to that. Just a little bit about myself, and then I'm going to go into questions. I was born and raised in a one-stop sign town in Wisconsin, a little town called North Lake, and grew up on welfare. And let me back up just a sec. Why can I win those Democrat votes? Why can I win those decline of state votes? Why, in my last election, when I won 57,000 votes in a district that only had 59,000 Republican voters, if I go too fast with you with math, my degrees in mathematics, I apologize. But it all boils down to, with about half the people showing up to vote, that almost half of my votes were decline of state or Democrat. I got about 33,000 Republicans. The rest were decline of state Democrats. Why do we win those voters? Why aren't they, staying in their column? Well, because I'm a different kind of Republican. I'm an American first. I don't care about your party. If you want to raise your hand and tell me you're a Democrat tonight, I don't care. You're an American first. And as a military guy, I put my life on the line for you, Democrats, you decline of states, you Republicans, and everything in between, as much as I did for anybody else. And that's what I believe. That's what's really in me. And when I talk to voters, there is no party divide. There is an American talking to American, trying to figure out what the solution is that's best for all Americans. That's how we win Democrat votes. Okay, so now that's the attitude going in. I grew up on welfare. That's different. I'm not against a taxpayer-funded safety net, investing into our citizens in their times of need so they can go back into the economy and return on that investment like I have, thankfully, much more than was ever put into me. Then we talked about how I'm an airline guy. So I'm a union member. Now they're really stretching their heads. You're a Republican, raised on welfare, union. You sure you're a Republican? Yeah, I'm sure. And so that partisan barrier, that stereotype breaks down, and we're able to talk about some of the solutions that I talked about tonight. And when you get rid of that partisan divide, that's, you must be that evil, rich, white guy, Republican thing, which I'm not rich, but I'm not evil, I'm a white guy. But anyways, when that is broken down and you're talking as just two human beings trying to figure out what's best for your country, it doesn't matter what party you're from. You've got a common goal. You're trying to reach it there. You may not get there the exact same way, but you get there. That's how we win those Democrat votes, those decline of state votes. That's how we're going to win this election. And yes, John Garamendi is going to be 67 years old for this election. It is time for him to retire, and he should have a very distinguished and respectable and relaxing and well-earned retirement. It's time to put new blood, new ideas, folks that can get in there and really fix things. All right, a couple more things to hopefully impress you a little bit, and then we'll go on. Did I still think? Go back one. Military service, Lieutenant Colonel right now, U.S. Air Force Reserves, Commander C-17s at Travis. I spent time at Pacific Command Headquarters out in Hawaii. My wife loved that assignment. Working on budgets out there. I've been flying airplanes for the most part, but I have had some staff jobs that have helped me to work on the money issues. I've served in both Iraq and Afghanistan extensively, flying in there a lot. Lots of good stories there. I'll tell you some other time. But been to combat kind of stuff. Then I've been at United Airlines, flying out of San Francisco since '99. Next slide. Went to Fresno State, BA in math, and then I've done a lot of military education that will bore you to death, but it's pretty interesting to me. And my wife and I did have a small business together, property management and development, and we ended up selling it after I was activated to go to war full-time. We couldn't do it by ourselves. Or she couldn't do it by herself, of course. And then politics. My most endearing quality to you tonight is I have never held elected office before. And that is a positive, but when you are in the military, you are in kind of a branch of government, and I have lots of experience with how the government works. And although I'm not elected to my positions, I earned that position a little bit differently in the military. I have been involved in government. And we talked about the run for Congress. Okay, next slide. And then I'll wrap this up. Every successful campaign has a good candidate, which hopefully I've shown that tonight. And that's up to you. The next thing a successful campaign needs is volunteers, grassroots, people that work and try to help that candidate get elected. Trust me, I cannot do this by myself. No way. It is way too big. I need you. I need your help. Those of you that want to see me elected, I need you to come out, sign up on the volunteer sheets back there, help me out, make it some very easy phone calls, delivering flyers to doors, and whatever else we need to do. Please, what you hear here tonight motivates you to try to get me into Congress. Please sign up and volunteer. The grassroots effort is what's going to win in the primary and in November. And then lastly, we do need money. Stuff costs money. Right now I'm raising money to buy those big, nice brick tubs for Congress signs out there. So if you are able, and I don't want anybody to take food off their table, sacrifice to painful measures, if you can, throw $5, $20, $200, $2,500 in the kitty back there, that will help me get this message out to the rest of the voters so we can win in November. So with that, I'm going to wrap up, and thank you very much, and open it up to your questions, please. Go ahead. I know there's questions.
You got one here.
Yes, sir.
How do you plan that people in own welfare shouldn't be on it?
Yeah. The question is, how do you plan cutting the people on welfare that shouldn't be on there? And your question, sir, is really bigger than you asked, because it goes to that $98 billion I talked about earlier. There is so much waste and mismanagement in government from every level. You talk about welfare. Let's talk about the people on Social Security that have been dead for years and still checks going in. Let's talk about prisoners that are in jail because of drug abuse, and then they get labeled disabled, and so now they start drawing a Social Security check while they're in jail, right? And then there's people on welfare generations. I told you I grew up on welfare. Now I'm going to be a little personal, and I'll come back to your answer. There was never a moment in our household that my mother ever even thought about me or my sister staying on welfare. She was on welfare, yes, but there was always a plan for her to come off, always a plan for her to go back to work, and there was never even a thought about us continuing in that manner. That kind of stuff. When you talk about generational welfare, I'll tell you right now, the second generation is the first level that shouldn't be on there. We should have a program in welfare, one, that is efficient enough to root out that waste and abuse of the system. You have to get people that are going to hold those agencies accountable, start cleaning up the mess in there, and when you pass a law or you pass a budget, you make sure those dollars are spent wisely. You got to get in there and start firing some people, hiring people that are interested in being fiscally responsible, and go after them. Tighten up the processes, just like I've done in the military. Every time I take over a new unit or a new department, I go in and I look at all the processes. How can we do it better? And I always tell my boss, you're going to fire me or promote me, because I'm going to change things. So far I've been promoted. Now I'm asking you to promote me. But you get in there, you hold them responsible. You get this system. You take advantage of 21st century technologies to track this stuff. Computers, numbers, getting into the social workers, making sure they're doing their jobs. And a lot of those people are working very hard. Maybe they're overworked, and that's why that's not going in. There is places that to save money, you have to spend some money to increase, like I told you, the Medicare department in fraud. Next is you build a welfare system. We did a good change back in the 90s under Newt Gingrich and Bill Clinton, a bipartisan event, where they reformed welfare and helped people get out. You've got to have welfare be that temporary minded. It's got to be a program where the recipients are being reminded this is a temporary position for you in life. There is a whole lot better world out there. If you just go after it, we're going to help you get there. You hold them accountable. I'm going to tell you a story. I hope that answers your question. I don't have a detailed, down in the weeds answer for you, but that's where you start. I'm going to tell you a story I was told by, now how many of you have ever heard of a candidate flying an airplane to a campaign event? I mean, actually at the controls. Well, you have met one. You've met one today. I had 4 events one day, and we got on an airplane and flew up there. Anyways, the pilot that actually made sure that I didn't kill anybody that day because it wasn't an airplane I'm used to flying. The pilot that was there told us a story. He had a business. He hired this gal. She was 23 years old, on welfare, 2 kids. And something about her made him think, I'm going to give this gal a shot. She didn't have any experience or personality. So he gives her a shot, hires her. First month, she goes out like gangbusters, just making sales, and she doesn't even know what she's doing really, other than succeeding. And so after the first month, Chris is his name, is just so excited, he calls her into the office to give her $11,000 commission check. Now, when I was on welfare, it was like $537 a month. I don't know what they're making now, but $11,000. Gives it to her and says, you did great. Good for you. Looking forward to having you keep going. That's a Friday. She goes home, and of course, this young gal goes and calls her mom. This is great. And I can't believe what happened. That mother said to her daughter, do not cash that check. You will lose your welfare benefits. For the mothers in this crowd, imagine saying that to your daughter. Imagine crushing the dreams of that daughter, taking away that opportunity, taking away the ability to be something more than just on welfare. The reason I know this story is because that daughter called my friend Chris back and quit and never cashed that check. We cannot, as a government, allow that mentality to permeate through. You can't just give a check and not have accountability and responsibility with that check. There needs to be an education process to know these are tax dollars that are being invested in you during this time in your life so you can get back on your feet and back out there as a contributing member of society. This is not a permanent position. And there is a much better life for you. And I am a living example of it. There is a much better life for you once we get you through this. That has got to be put in there. We can't be afraid to do that. We can't be afraid to be insensitive. We don't want to hurt their feelings. Baloney. We're hurting their feelings by evidence of that story, by locking them in to that dependency on the government. And if we, as an agency that is disseminating that money, is going to also put some accountability and responsibility with that money, which I think we should be able to, then we change those attitudes and get the people off of welfare that shouldn't be. What else you got? Yes, sir?
What are you going to do about the housing market and the banks?
In what way?
Well, most houses are underwater and everything, and the banks, they took taxpayer money, and they haven't really done anything with it.
Yeah, let me tell you another story. I love telling stories. I'm a pilot. I'll get my hands going here eventually, you know. I'm knocking on doors, you know, trying to win votes. And this fella asked me a similar question. What about the banks? He goes, they got to bail out of our tax dollars, the banks did. Billions of dollars of our money, really our kids' money, because it was borrowed money. And he says, I'm underwater. I got a job. I am trying to make my payments, but I can't because I got a pay cut, and the bank won't refinance me because I'm too big a risk. They have all my tax dollars, but they're not doing anything for me. I don't have a detailed figured out what are we going to do. There are people that just plain bought houses they shouldn't. Another story. When I bought my house that I'm in right now, that loan agent tried to get me to do all these different loans, and all I wanted was a 30-year fix. Give me a 30-year fix. Well, you can do a 5-year ARM. Well, then it goes up in 5 years, right? Yeah, but you can. Is it going to cost me more money in 30 years? Yeah. Well, can I afford it in 6 years when it goes up? No. Well, why am I going to do that? Well, do a no documents loan. Hey, you don't have to provide your income, anything in the bank. You don't have to have a down payment. All these different crazy ideas. And I sat there and I kept pushing them back going, who in their right mind would do such a thing? And if anybody in here did that, I'm sorry if I just offended you. However, I was just like, who in their right mind would take advantage of these things? Because in 5 years, I'm not going to be able to afford this house. I want to keep my house. A lot of people did it with the idea that the market will go up forever. People made some mistakes, and when you make a mistake, you suffer the consequences. And that is something that we have to accept. And then you go through it. You're smarter for it, you get it behind you, and then you go out and you do better next time. You don't kill somebody, you don't kill the chances of somebody. You get out there, and we have good laws to take care of that. Now on the other side, I think we bailed out some banks that we should have just let go. You banks did the wrong thing. And this is a problem that stretches back so long. I mean, really back to Carter, through every administration. It's not a Democrat problem. It's not a Republican problem. They both made mistakes. George Bush, you want to talk about George Bush? The second, going in and 17 times he tried to get Congress to change those things. But guess what? He had Congress, House, he had the Senate, he had the presidency. It's not about just complaining. You got to show leadership. I blame George Bush just as much as I blame Bill Clinton for this thing because they let it go. My former president might not like that, but hey, they let this happen. The repeal of Glass-Steagall in 1999, a Republican Congress, a Democrat president, was another big deal that set this up. A regulation I would have kept in place. So I just kind of talked about the problem right now. Back to your solution. What we do is we clean up the mess we've made. There's going to be some people that are going to hurt and you're going to not be able to hold on to their homes. For the ones that we can save, there's programs, there's money there. Make them work, make them effective. We pass these laws to try to help people with their homes, and you keep hearing in the news how only a very small percentage have been able to take advantage of it. If we give taxpayers dollars out, we, being the government, we have strings attached. We have direction with those dollars. We don't just give them away and let people do whatever they want. That's called fiscal responsibility. That's your money that I'm taking from you and giving to somebody else. You have voted for me to make sure I do that wisely. And if I'm just giving it away, that's not wise. So we got to make these programs work for people. And then we make sure we have that vibrant economy that I talked about earlier. That vibrant economy by getting off the backs of job creators, so there are jobs out there so people can start over again, get a good job, buy their house, keep following their American dream in a couple of years from now. It'll take a little bit. We've gotten through most of the pain already, but there's still some folks out there that are going to have to go through some pain.
Yeah,
Not an exact answer.
Loan is the worst one of them all.
What's that?
That arms loan is the worst.
Oh, I know, that interest only. How about an interest only loan for the first 7 years? And then you pay. Yes, sir.
Speaking about your agency, are you interested in bills that would create ramifications for agencies that didn't comply with financial matters?
Can you give me an example before I go off on what I think you're saying?
Yeah, let's say an agency is supposed to, or is allocated for the appropriations, $20 million for a particular project. And they withhold, let's say, $2 million of that for the department. And they don't actually expend it, though they're earmarked to go out. And let's say that group is a small business.
Yeah, I'm following you. In the military, that's illegal. Now, I'm not aware of, the Department of Agriculture doing it or something like that, but if we were to hold back money, the money we get from Congress in our defense budget is directed for certain funds, and if we spend it on the wrong funds, we could actually go to jail. Yeah, and so what happens is, though, in the inefficiency of government, you have people either not understanding their job or flat out being corrupt. And that's why it gets back to that accountability. I want you, hopefully I'll make this clear tonight in my communication to you. I want you to know that if I'm your congressman, I will work hard. If I pass a bill with a budget, I will go and make sure that those agencies are spending that money properly. I won't just